Hi everybody, yes, Andy Phillips here, and as you can see, I've got Julie with me. Julie, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Manchester pin host.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. Now we do these meet the hosts really just to get to know our wonderful pin host a little bit more. Now you've been doing this for quite a while, but what got you into property in the first place? What started you on this journey?
I think it's one of those things I'd call tinkered with around the edges, family properties, my own stuff, but not done anything too seriously to the level that I do these days and lots of other people do. And then I think when my mum was ill, when my mum was diagnosed as terminally ill, I became more of an accidental landlord, and I think things snowballed from there. I got into things a lot more, and I never to this day quite understand why I went down the initial route I did, but through some of the inheritance that I left, I found some overseas opportunities that seemed at the time quite interesting, worked for me, because one of them actually gave me 4 weeks a year usage in a what looked to be a beautiful spa resort. So I invested in those. At the time, I'd been a lone parent since my son was 18 months old. So it was quite tough for me because I was in a job that wasn't 9 till 5. There was a lot of traveling. I had a lot of tears with my son, things I was stuck in places I couldn't get away from. And, you know, you start to realize that the one thing you can't get back in life, Andy, is time. That's very, very precious. So when the opportunity came up to perhaps do more in the property, then that's the route I went down. Now, you know, and I often say at my PIN meetings, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment, you know, I did do some due diligence. You know, I sort of, you know, didn't go with the mentality of my hair colouring. I did actually look at some things and did some checks around that. But the problem was what I couldn't have accounted for. And we always say, we don't know what we don't know. And I don't think people actually realise just how true that expression is.
Yeah.
I couldn't have accounted for a fraudulent lawyer as part of the process. And the day I got the phone call to say that, you know, they thought I'd lost my 50 grand's worth of investment, I think anybody that's been in that position, I just felt absolutely sick to my stomach. You know, my security, or my son's security, or so I thought I was invested in, had just absolutely gone to the wall. So that was really quite tough. But, you know, when you let your wounds down, you realise that you can't just sit in and hope for somebody to come and knock on the door and rescue you. It's just not going to happen. And the other thing that I think I relate to people on is, you know, I was past my 50s when this happened, and I think so. I was a later starter getting into property at the level I do now, and that brings with it. We talk about mindset, which is so important in this game. Mindset, support, knowledge. You know, those three things put together. So your mindset coming into something at that stage in your life is quite different, Andy. Because whereas if you're younger, in your 30s, your 40s, maybe your attitude to risk is somewhat different depending on who you are as an individual, and that comes down to your values, your wealth dynamics that a lot of people on this call might understand. So going into something where, you know, I was on my own mentally, emotionally and financially, I was at that age where my line of recovery wasn't as long potentially as other people in their earlier years. Were quite a lot of circumstances to deal with. So I just went online at the time and I found something called PIN. And I went along to my local group, and I am so passionate about this when people come into the room, because having walked into a room, having gone through the experience I'd gone through, I wasn't in the best place. My confidence wasn't as high at all. I'm walking into a busy room like that. You think everybody knows everybody. I felt like somebody with two heads. I felt like standing up the corner at the party in the kitchen that Simon always shares with us. And it was a really daunting experience for me. And I kept going and I kept going, and eventually I got to do what's now the Property Foundation, the Mastermind Foundation one-day course. And it sort of spiraled from there for me. I found a way of getting onto the full program, the Mastermind program, the 12-month one. And again, that wasn't easy because all my security blankets had fallen away, and so that was quite daunting. And
So it's a big step for you. That was a huge step then for you.
Absolutely, it was basically do or die, Andy, for me at that stage. And I think, if people understand or follow the law of attraction, is whilst you're trying to be positive thinking, when you're in that position, you're still operating to lower vibration level, and it's really, really quite hard to get away from. So I just went for it. I thought it's got to be this now or never. And I say to people, doing that one-day training was really the start of the rest of my life as I know today, which I could not have imagined when I eventually did gave up my full-time role. I think my target was I'll do 3 flips a year and I'll be okay. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would have got into doing some of the things that I'm doing now. So it really was a game changer for me, Andy.
Because it's quite strange, because I think when companies provide training, because I do for the digital side, when companies provide training, there is a sort of there's a cynical eye that goes over it. It's like, why are they doing it? What's in it for them apart from money and all that sort of thing? But I think there's the psychology of actually going on to a training, because I've done training. I've been to training courses. I've paid my money for training courses on lots of different types of things in business as well. But there is a psychological thing. If you find the right sort of training for you, the psychology is quite powerful. It's because it shows that other people are doing a similar sort of thing. You sort of discover the people who are successful, but you also see the challenges that people have and understand how to overcome some of those challenges.
Absolutely. And when you get into these programs, and the right programs, it's not just about, oh, look at me, look how wonderful everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Everybody will hit a plateau at different peaks. I saw that on my program. I mean, for me, again, I thought I got over some of my curveballs. I didn't see the next curveball coming, because month 2 of the program, my son actually had quite a serious accident. He fell top to bottom down the stairs, and he was airlifted to Alderhay Hospital. He was 15 at the time. So again, I'd got over, one barrier, and I was just about to hit the next 2 or 3. So that was quite a difficult period, because he spent weeks in Alderhay Hospital. I was very fortunate he hadn't broken his back. There were injuries that we could deal with. And I'll never forget, he came home the day before Christmas Day. The only reason we had Christmas lunch that year was thanks to online shopping.
Right.
And we thought, okay, this is something we can deal with. And I always say to people, and I share with the room in Manchester, when you're doing this sort of stuff, it really is the psychology, as you say, and the mindset that's going to get you to that next level. Yes, there might be practical challenges about finance or what you can do or your capacity, etc. But for me, the real thing is about that mindset. If you can master that mindset with the right sort of support, then the world really is more your oyster. Again, it's working in line with your vibration. It's being in the flow, and when you feel like that, things will move a lot easier for you. So, when my son came home, we thought, okay, it's going to be a period of recovery. But then he started to have up to 15 fits a day. And as a parent, as a mum on my own, that was really, really quite scary, because I felt that I couldn't actually do anything. I couldn't leave him. I couldn't take my eye off him, because he wandered off. And one day he wandered off, and he had a fit sitting on the platform at the train station. And, your mind just goes into overdrive with this sort of stuff. We never quite got to the bottom of what had caused this, but I had that for almost 8 to 10 months throughout my Mastermind program. Now, going back to the point about it is your mindset, and you really need to be able to focus. Part of me was away with the fairies during this period. And I had lots of conversations with some of the senior coaches on the program at the time. and people were supporting me. And you know, and I say today, I think had it not have been for that program, I was in a catch-22. I couldn't come away because, you know, I needed to move forward with what I'd started for financial reasons. You know, I was committed and I couldn't get back from it, but I'd got to cope with what was going on. And I did somehow with structure around me. I managed to get through that. Now, you know, and I'm always honest to say to people, needless to say, I didn't quite achieve what I'd set out and I wanted to do. And I think it's not an excuse. I think it's perhaps understandable when you look back at the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But what I say to people is, for me, the big one of the biggest lessons that I learned is persistence is everything. Yeah, do not give up at the first hurdle. You know, that those were my curveballs. Everybody has different curveballs, but if you are in the right environment with the right support, coupled with the right knowledge, then, you know, it can get you through a lot of things that on your own you would not cope with. You would just walk away and you would, I won't say feel a failure, but you wouldn't have got where you wanted. You think, that's not for me, that doesn't work. And that's not always the right thing to be doing, Andy, to be fair.
Yeah, one of the things that I get, because I speak to a lot of people. I've interviewed, I don't know, hundreds of people who've gone through things like Mastermind, and I've interviewed a lot of the pin hosts who have done it as well. And the thing that comes back time and time again is it's not just the information. Information's information. You can find information everywhere. It's how that's applied, but it's also it's the support throughout that process that makes all the difference. It's the people around you that make the difference. So, you know, training is training, you know. it's what happens within that training that makes all the difference.
Yeah, you can read a book. You know, there's lots of different ways you can acquire training, but you're absolutely right. That environment is fundamental. And even now, if I'm having a little bit of a low moment, I'll plug back into something. I'll plug back into the environment. I'll reach out to people. And when I was in my corporate world, I was a contractual home worker for many, many years. And just to throw something out there that's relevant to the time is, home working is fantastic. It allows you the flexibility, and we've all seen during the current times, you know, people are adapting. What I would say to people, and I found this when I gave up my role in the corporate world, because yes, I was a home worker, but I did go into a location. I had a team of people on different sites, so I would have to go into those from time to time.
Yeah.
When I gave that up completely, I can remember sitting at my kitchen breakfast table, tapping my fingers and thinking, now what? Where does this go? And it was a really, really strange feeling coming away from that corporate environment that I've been part of for 30 odd years. So as a home worker, if you do feel a little bit down, a little bit isolated, reach out to people, you know, have a virtual cup of coffee with somebody, give somebody a call, because many years ago, that's the way I found that was the way through it. And particularly depending if you are that sort of person that needs to have that interaction, if you're on a different side of the wealth dynamics, you know, you're a lord, you're that sort of profile, this might be your utopia, but for other people, it's not. So if you find that you are struggling, adjusting to sort of the new wave that's coming, then just reach out to people, find ways that, you know, make you feel good, that lift you, you know, that just some, you know, very obvious tips, but, you know, just do that. Don't think I've got to sit here on my own and, oh goodness, I'm not having a great day, I feel a bit flat. Just make a couple of phone calls to people that you know that will make you feel good and say, not a great day, how's things for you? You would be amazed just how receptive people can be, Andy.
Yeah, and the technology nowadays is staggering. I mean, you know, a lot of people are talking about things like Zoom and Skype and all those sort of things. But there's things like this. I mean, I actually run a lot of my business using StreamYard. This is a live streaming platform. But I talk to loads of people on this as well, you know, just one-to-one. It's really, really good. And, you know, Zoom's not that difficult to do. And we're doing a lot of it at the moment, but just running your life by, you know, talking to as many people as you possibly can both within the property industry and outside of it is a really good way of actually just keeping in contact with people, you know, full stop. Zoom doesn't cost any money. You know?
And again, if you are the sort of person that doesn't find technology easy, it's a mindset.
Yes,
Once you get, and me included, I put my hands up, Andy, as you know from this morning. You know, if you, oh, it's not for me, just open your mind. Once you get over it, you will be an absolute convert. Trust me.
yeah, yeah,
It's, you know, when you've always done something in a certain way, and you're a bit close to it, you might think, oh, that's not for me. That's not for me. Just try it. Honestly, you'd be surprised. You will surprise yourself.
yeah. And I think a lot of people now are doing that. They have to change their mindset because they need to talk to people. They need to get out and they need to talk to people. And the only way we can do that at the moment is through a virtual platform like Zoom and things like that. So, you know, I think it's growing. I think a lot of people are sort of taking it on board. And the great thing is that when we go back to our normal lives and everything's, you know, exactly the same as it used to be, hopefully not too far away, people are still going to have that skill set. People are still going to be able to contact people via these virtual platforms. And for business, it's absolutely brilliant because you don't have to go and see someone all the time. You know, you can, if you're trying to get a JV partner, talking to them about different things, the virtual way of talking is the best way of doing it. Doing Zoom calls daily on different things. If you're doing a project, you know, a property project, it's a fantastic way of just keeping on top of everything. You don't have to go and see people all the time, you know.
No, absolutely. I mean, myself, like a lot of pin hosts, will have been running everything, you know, remotely, virtually over the past, the past 6 weeks. So, you know, life will carry on. It will move forward. We will have a new normal. I'm pretty convinced about that. You know, we've been, you know, Simon's done a fantastic job, and the team actually getting some of the pin meetings online live to keep us all going, to keep us plugged in. And I would encourage people to, you know, to do that. You know, if you need that injection of positivity, you know, you want some, you know, you want some guidance on what's going to be the right thing for you, the way the marketplace is going, etc., etc. You know, property is not going to die, as you know. I do see in some Facebook groups that there are going to be lots of needs, lots of requirements. I think it is just a case of adjusting and making those changes, Andy, in the future. You know, and when we do get to the point where, you know, we can start having those meetings again, you know, we will be working with PIN to adjust to that and guiding people as expertly as, you know, as we've always done over the years.
I'm talking about the sort of PIN networking. What was it that made you decide to become a PIN host? I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world. You know, there's a bit of dedication that goes into it. So why become a PIN host?
I love people. My wealth dynamics is I'm a supporter profile. And when I was doing the Mastermind program, I kept talking to Simon about setting up a group in an area that was very close to me, one of my investment areas. I wouldn't say I'm badgered in to death, but I think he could see that I was quite passionate about this. And obviously, Simon had sort of got some thoughts and plans for some of his PIN meetings, and he invited me to go on the training and to look at Manchester. And I'll be totally honest, if I ever completely told someone, I went into a complete wobble behind the scenes going, I know nothing about Manchester, it's not where I live, blah, 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 blah. But I then realised it wasn't so much about that. It was about, you know, it was about that meeting, what I could bring to that meeting. You know,
It's about people, isn't it? It's not about area. It's about
absolutely.
People.
And we all build power teams and all that sort of stuff. So I was just, you know, I think for me, I always class as one of my greatest achievements was actually, you know, being offered that PIN host role. I am so passionate about that. You know, I love the people, and we had. And I, you know, as I said, I'm very passionate about the experience that people have coming into the room. I watch that very closely in the room on the night, you know, with the helper team, because, you know, I know for me what a daunting experience it was, and I never want anybody to feel like that coming into the room in Manchester.
Yeah.
And a few months ago, before we were in lockdown, we had somebody came into the room, and he was new, and he came to me afterwards, and he said, I was so stressed about coming to this. He says, I almost nearly bottled it. And at 11:30 that night, we were dragging him out the bar to go home. So he completely embraced the experience. So, you know, I would say to people, you know, it is a daunting experience to walk into that. We get some good numbers at Manchester, so you probably, that can be even a little bit more overwhelming as well. But come and say hello to me. Go and talk to one and the helper team. If I see somebody standing on their own, I will physically walk them over to a couple of people or to some other new people. I'll do some introductions. I'll open up a conversation. I'll just do that bit of an icebreaker for them, because not everybody's natural at doing that, Andy. So sometimes people just need a little bit of a helping hand.
Well, even for me, I mean, I speak at PIN meetings. I stand at the front and speak to 50, 100 people, and I'm not a shy person. But as I said to you the other day, I can go to a PIN meeting, a new PIN meeting that I've not been to before, and I feel a little bit daunted when I walk in because I don't know anybody, and it's a completely natural thing to feel that a little bit overwhelmed by things and stuff like that. So if you imagine someone who's never ever been to maybe even a networking meeting, they may have never even been to a networking meeting ever, let alone a property networking meeting. And it's keeping that in mind, to make sure that when people do walk into these PIN meetings that we have, that one of the reasons, again, why we do these sort of things, these meet the hosts, is get to know you via this, via video or whatever, the live broadcast we do, get to know this, get to know you here. And so when they can walk in, they can see you at the front of the room and they say, I'm going to go and have a chat with Julie.
Absolutely.
And it makes it easier, breaking the ice that way.
And I always watch, because sometimes we've got 2 rooms for the PIN setup. One we use for the reception area, and then the other one obviously with the main meeting. And I always keep an eye out for those people that have sneaked inside and through reception and gone and sat up on a seat up the corner. So obviously you're new, and I'll go and have a chat, and you come and talk to so and so, because they're doing that because clearly they don't know how to deal with this. So it really is about having your eye on the ball at the meetings, and just embracing those new people, making them feel comfortable. And I think I'm probably an outgoing sort of person. I'm quite bright and bubbly, so perhaps makes it easier for people to feel they can approach me. But if not, I'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, please do, when you come along to the meeting, just come and say hello. I'm quite good at opening up the conversations if you're not quite sure about this sort of stuff. So just come and say, oh, hi, Julie, I'm your first time, and the rest will just flow for you. That's not a problem.
Because what you people have got to remember is that everybody in that meeting room started somewhere. You might have some people in there that have been in property for 20 years, but 20 years ago they hadn't done anything. And some people have they've done some quite amazing things in short spaces of time in property, but they started somewhere. They were exactly the same. They walked into a room just as you did. For the very first time, and we all understand that we're all human. We understand those things, and one of the things that I've always seen is PIN meetings. Whenever I've either spoken at a meeting or just I go to a few local ones, and the sort of friendship and camaraderie within those meeting rooms is pretty good. But going there for the first time, you don't know that. It's only when you've gone there and you've been there a few times that you realise that we're all just a bunch of people. We've all got our issues and our problems like everyone else. The only difference, I think, is that we've taken that little step and said, look, I want to be part of something. I want to talk to people that are a bit like me. That's really the reason for going to these meetings in the first place, is just to find people who've got maybe a little bit of an entrepreneurial spark, or an interest in the property industry, and see if it's something that they can do. So when you walk into those meetings, just remember that we're all just humans. We're just human beings. We've all got our challenges and our problems, So
it's about reaching out, and and if you reach out, you make that first step, then you've opened that door. And just picking up on a couple of points there, which are really important, is the more you come to the meetings, the more you will get to know people. The more that will grow. The same for me. There's regular people that come. Even the new people still get the same warm welcome. Regular people come and find that they get more from the meetings. They get to know more people. I will just touch on a couple of quite important points, and this is something that we talk about during the service provider slot, is that obviously lots of things come out of those rooms when you're meeting new people, new contacts. You might look at new partners to work with, new JV partners. I would say to people, one of the key things for me that was very valuable, I learned some incredibly valuable lessons from when I first started in property. I understood a lot more about my values, what was important to me. And it was sometimes more about those lessons, the lessons I learned, than sort of what I actually achieved. But the two sort of went hand in hand. Is you need to understand people that you want to work with. That is really, really important. Get behind the smoke and the mirrors, get to the real stuff, get to know people quite well. And for me, some of it's about an intuitive thing. People laugh at me. I have this mantra, and I did, gone back for years. Is for me, it's not the what, it's the how. Okay, it's not. In other words, it's how people to react to situations that will give you the real measure of that person's integrity, transparency, how that relationship's going to be, how things are going to work, their behaviours, their attitude. It's all that sort of thing to me that is personally really, really important. If you're going to be working with somebody on a long-term basis, you've got to respect, be able to get on with people, communicate with people. If not, it's a painful experience, Andy, and I've had a few of those.
Yeah.
And this is all about choice. We do this through choice. We're not in the corporate world anymore. So choose what's right for you. And the things that I learned, to me, it's very much people before profit. It's about transparency. It's about honesty. Now, sometimes people, they might not be acting unlawfully, but they might not be acting transparently. And there's a big difference for me, Andy. I want people that I can work with and shared values. And I had a bit of a funny story. One of my first investors, and they teach you through the training, is how to attract investors and working with other people's money. And one of my first experiences of an investor that to this day is still quite a close friend of mine. He rings me up for a chat. How are you doing? Have you got any opportunities for me, Julie? And we built up that relationship. I didn't meet him until 4 years on, Andy. We talk about doing things virtually. It was all by phone. Now, at the time, he'd had quite a negative experience investing with somebody and lost quite a lot of money. So he was very, very cautious. So it was about building up that relationship, which we did, and we got to know one another. And he's a great contact of mine now. He's now finally retired from his corporate world, but he rings me up. What we're doing? What advice would you give me, Julie? And that's lovely. And we wouldn't have maintained that relationship had we have not had the right fundamentals of the relationship, if that makes sense. And I'd rather have a small handful of those than 24 of the other type of relationships that I just don't enjoy at all.
No, I think that's a perfect way to end this. There's so many pin meetings out there at the moment, and the more we talk to the pin hosts, some of the sort of the wisdom that comes out and the experience that comes out from you guys is really very, very cool. It's and this is what we're all about. It's just this is all about experience. It's all about tapping into people like yourself and the other pin hosts who have got some genuine experience of investing. So I really, really appreciate that, and I appreciate your time, Julie, this morning.
Great, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for thanks, Andy.
We'll definitely get you on again, and we'll start talking about some of the strategies that you do and the things like that.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Yeah, I've got one thing that I want to quickly share, which is I'm just going to share my screen here for a second. So we got tomorrow morning. We've got another live. I'm going to be doing it with my business partner Josh Lister. We're going to be looking at website strategies, or actually how websites can work better for you if you've got some really good ideas about how to do that properly. We've been doing websites for years and years and years, and we've built up a load of ideas of exactly how to make your website better. So if you've got a website and you want to see how you can turn it into a bit of a killer website, then come and join us tomorrow. We're going to do that at 10 o'clock on PIN Community. So come and join us then. And now we're going to just say goodbye to Julie. And again, thanks very much for your time today. And as I say, we'll definitely get you back and start talking about some strategies and things like that.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.
Yes, stay safe.
See you soon. Bye.
See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.